So it's looking like Avowed has a little bit more information out there thanks to Jez Corden, the person over there at Windows Central. Shout out to him, and I want to talk about that. But before we get on with the video, definitely hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. You can always subscribe to the channel for weekly content. And don't forget to go over there and follow me at Twitter at LordAddictILP. Without any further ado, let's talk about Avowed on the Xbox Series X. What's going on, you guys? Gaming Guide here, coming at you for another video. Today we're going to be talking about Avowed, the game that all of you know I've been hyped for a long time. I've actually made some videos about Avowed. Whether or not you guys are excited for it as much as I am is besides the point, but when it comes to Obsidian, I do feel like that's one of Microsoft's better studios, if not their best studio. So let's go ahead and talk about the Avowed and what Windows Central's Jez Corden, a friend, has posted on the website. It does look like he got his hands on the actual game somehow. I don't know how that happened. It does have some variations of what goes on here in the actual article. So definitely go and read the article so you can get more details on behind the scenes that he is talking about in here. Because I'm going to keep this video more focused on the game itself. So I will put the actual article in the description below. So definitely go watch that. Let's read some segments from this article. First off, let's go ahead and read. The Outer Worlds fans already have plenty of reasons to be excited about Obsidian upcoming slate given the Outer Worlds 2 that have been confirmed. Avowed seems to be based on similar enchanting engine from the Outer Worlds, complete with action-oriented first-person combat and deep RPG exploration and a narrative system. We were told Avowed would feature multiple class playstyles and borrow from Skyrim's two-handed combat system. You could wield two daggers and be stealth in a stealthy rogue, or dive into an archery with a two-handed bow. You could use a combination of swords and magic, or go two full-handed magic, which is required to wield some of the game's most potent spells and abilities. Let's talk about this for a minute before we move on to the next segment. So right here, Avowed seems to be based on a similar enhanced engine from the Outer Worlds. Now, I'm not going to say the Outer Worlds look bad because it didn't, but I am going to say that in terms of a next-gen experience, I don't really like the word enhanced. To be honest with you guys, I would prefer a new engine entirely, but I'm not going to say that the Outer Worlds looks so bad that we can't use that engine. I do feel like Microsoft can use that engine, but Microsoft, please let this engine be a good enhancement and not just some PR speak to actually, oh, we only did minor tweaks and we're going to make a new next-gen experience game on it, because at the end of the day, I do want this game to be very successful, and I feel like the engine that it's designed on is going to be important to what kind of success it has. Clearly, if it's like the Fallout franchises or the Elder Scrolls franchises where, they use the creation engine over and over again and it doesn't ever really seem to be a huge jump, I hope we don't see that here. I hope that what we see on the Outer Worlds 2 and the Avowed, because keep in mind, most likely they're going to use the same engine on the Outer Worlds 2. I want it to be a drastic jump in what the tools of that engine can do from the Outer Worlds to Avowed and the Outer Worlds 2. And that's my only real concern in something like that. It's not a huge concern, but I do have a little bit of concern in terms of them using just an enhanced version of that engine. Now let's talk about complete with an action-oriented first-person combat and deep RPG exploration and narrative systems. I'm 100% okay with this. I do feel like they need to give you the ability to turn the game into a third person if you choose to. Kind of like how the Elder Scrolls games was, the Fallout games were. Look, I'm not saying that I'll be playing on that third person view, but a lot of gamers, especially PlayStation gamers, prefer that view. And if you don't give them that view, they're going to completely skip your game in general. I think we are to the point because PlayStation has made that third person view so popular. And I'm not saying that PlayStation's the only people that does that. All I'm saying is PlayStation has made that more popular than I would consider anyone else. I feel like you need to make sure that that game can run properly and it looks just fine as it does the first person counterpart to the third person. Now, they don't really go into much detail if there's going to be a third person, but I think it would be a mistake if you don't have a third person. You want this game to be open to as many genres and as many people as possible without doing anything drastically to hurt the overall gameplay. That's why a lot of gamers point out, you casualize this, you casualize that, just to try to reach an audience that's not really going to even get on your game. I want to avoid that. So if we can just get a third-person view on this game to encourage more people to try Avowed, I feel like that's better than just not having it there. All right, now here's one that I want to talk about. We were told Avowed would feature multiple class playstyles and borrow from the Skyrim's two-handed combat system. This is great. Now, I have no problem them using a game from 2011. I'm not going to really go into that too much. I do feel like some of the things in Skyrim are outdated and they need to make sure that those are brought up to date. I'm not saying they're not going to. I'm just saying that I want them to be their own unique person besides, you know, quote unquote copying Skyrim. Now, I don't think that Obsidian is copying Skyrim, but it's going to be clearly inspired by Skyrim. And I am a little concerned in terms of where Skyrim ends and where Avowed begins, if that makes sense to you guys. Now, I don't want you guys going out there on Twitter and saying Addict said Obsidian's copying Skyrim. I never said that, but all I'm wanting is just, you know, clearly a difference between the way Skyrim is made and the way Obsidian's made. Kind of like the Outer Worlds versus Fallout. Sure, you can see similarities and you can see inspirations off the Fallout franchise, but you can tell that these are two entirely different playstyles and two entirely different games. That's all I'm saying. That's what I want. Now let's talk about when they say that you will be able to play with Skyrim's two-handed combat system. You could wield two daggers or be a stealthy rogue or dive into an archery with a two-handed bow. This is very important to this type of game. You need to be able to play this game exactly how you want to play it, and I do feel like Obsidian's done very good at this job. Now, I have went out and stated multiple times that I felt like the Outer Worlds could have did better in terms of aesthetics, how something looked, made it more unique, but I don't see in the Outer Worlds where playstyle was an issue. So I have no reason to believe that that's not going to carry over into Avowed. Now, in terms of magic, I do feel like Elder Scrolls has been really lacking the past installments. I felt like Oblivion was completely different in terms of the magic you can make that went into Skyrim, and I think even Morrowind was different than the magic you can make going into Oblivion. I do like how they explained the Oblivion magic with some kind of lore, but they didn't really go into that in too much in Skyrim. Maybe throughout the years it's just been outlawed with some of that magic. But let's talk about the fact that it says that you can actually use magic in this game, and one-handed magic to two-handed magic. That's really important. If you notice in the actual trailer for Avowed, the CGI trailer we have, that purple insinuate, well, I definitely butchered that, but that purple motion that he made with his hand on the left hand, you notice that that's a spell. And I've always liked the animation that they made for that particular spell. And it's really interesting to know that not only do you have one-handed spells, but you need both hands to achieve some of the biggest spells that's in the game. I think that's a really big thing. I want this magic in this game to really highlight play styles. I want to be able to enchant a bow that I pull out. I want to be able to make the bound bows that was in Elder Scrolls, whatever they would decide to call that type of spell in this game. I want, when you use magic, it enhances the other play styles, or you could just straight up be a mage. But I do want them to really focus on that. The fact that maybe you can be a knight, but instead of wearing heavy armor around, you can summon armor on you that has a leveling system to where you don't have to keep that stuff on you. I want to be able to do some type of inventory system to where I can access inventory that's in another part of the game if it's got a spell on it. I really want them to really look at the way that magic is done in games, and I want them to improve on that, because I feel like in terms of RPGs, that is where it is not evolving the most, is the uses, the diversity that you can use magic on your actual self and the people around you. Now let's read this next one. Avowed will feature many elements Pillar of Eternity fans will be familiar with. Keep in mind, guys, the Avowed game is in the Pillars of Eternity universe. Wizard spells like Jolting Touch, which can fry enemies with forks of lightning, will be present. Two-handed spells like Fireball can conjure using complex looking hand gestures and decimate enemies in a storm of magma and fire. I also saw status effects like Feedon Keris and ability magic with a coursing poison. Weapon enchantment seems to be a big feature too, with magically enhanced swords and frozen arrows. As example, pillar style guns may also appear in the game, similar to the muskets found in the original 2 titles. Familiar creatures such as the lizard will appear alongside much larger and deadlier foes, all the way up to the wyverns and drakes. So okay, let's go over a little bit on this. All right, so clearly we see the aggressive spells in the game, such as the jolting touch, where you can fry enemies with lightning. You see the two-handed spells like fireball that conjure complex looking hand gestures, that purple hand gesture I was talking earlier, that shoots storm of magma and fire. So these are your more aggressive spells, the one that you're going to really rely on if you have that only mage build, so you can do more damage to the enemies and clear areas. Then it looks like he brought up some status spells, a spell that you're able to poison people, so I could see that being used on stealth builds. Then he brought up weapon enchantments, seems to be a big feature too, with magically enhanced swords and frozen arrows. That's what I was bringing up earlier. I want to see more of this. I want a lot of the magic system to revolve around this. Not all of the magic system, because you do need an offensive magic system, but I do want more magic systems that really built on other playstyles, not necessarily if you're using a mage, but if you're using an archery, like he said, frozen arrows. I want to see more stuff like that, that even if I don't pick a mage and use a mage to its fullest extent, I can still use some of the spells to help the build that I'm currently using. And plus, he did go over some of the enemies that he saw in it, up to wyverns to drakes. Look, this looks like a great game, and I'm really excited for it. He did bring up later on in the article, debating on if he doesn't know if it's going to be hub-based or open world. I'm really open for either one of them, because I like the Outer Worlds and how they did the hub world. I like God of War and how they did hub world. There's multiple different variations of hub world games, and I think we need to stop trying to push every game to that open space game, because that does work for a lot of games, and most likely Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be open world. But not every game needs to be that way. Not every RPG needs to be that way. As long as the mechanics are good, the combat's good, the magic's good, the story's good, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have some type of machine or some type of traveling system to get to every region. I don't really necessarily see that as a negative whatsoever. That's if it is hub world. It might be an open world. We don't really know at this time. He did bring up that it's a possibility we might see this game by the end of the year, maybe the Video Game Awards, but he doesn't know how far along in development it is from this game to actually have a realistic chance of being at the Video Game Awards. Look, Avowed looks amazing, and I think that, like I said earlier in the video, Obsidian is one of Microsoft's best studios. They need to make sure this game comes out and it hits. They need to make sure this game needs everything it needs to succeed. This is probably the biggest game Microsoft has right now for the foreseeable future, because it's going to show whether or not the studio acquisitions is going to turn out in Microsoft's favor, and we need as many W's on Microsoft's side as possible. And I think that Avowed's going to be a W. I think Avowed's going to be a highly rated game, because such a very good studio is making the type of game that they want to make. Keep in mind, this is their game. This is the game they wanted to make. This game alone gave Microsoft the courage and gave Microsoft the amount of respect for Obsidian to go out and buy this game. And I do feel like this game, Microsoft's putting 100% behind, and we're going to see a lot about this game next year. I'm hoping we see gameplay next year at E3. They did say it was in pre-production, but I think people are confused what that really means. I don't think we have enough developers in the community, enough developers speaking on podcasts to educate people what that means. So we need to stop going out there and just stating that pre-production means the game's going to take 5 more years to make. Could it take 5 more years to make? Absolutely. Like I told you guys, I don't know what this means. I don't know what the word pre-production means in terms of developers. I'm sure it changes from studio to studio. I'm not a developer. I'm not going to comment on that. All I'm going to say is, to me, I expect this game 2023, maybe the middle of the year, maybe the holiday, maybe could get pushed back to early 2024. But anyway, that's the video, guys. Tell me how you guys feel about Avowed. Is this something you guys are excited for? Are you going to pick this game up? I do feel like this is one of the most anticipated games that's on my list. Particularly, I do want to see more Avowed, and I hope we see it next year. But anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm out of here. Peace.